So, what does a paranormal investigator and the Southern Poverty Law Center have in common? Turns out they both pay guys to throw on a bed sheet and run in front of a camera. Alright, I'm going to mildly dox myself a little bit for just some background. Before I worked at my current place, I worked at a printing plant. And the main thing this printing plant made was a combination of insert advertisements for magazines and whatnot. Oh, that was nice and quick. And mass mailers. And one of the mass mailers that we made was fundraising letters for the SPLC. So inadvertently, I was getting paid to be part of the problem. And you will note that after Charlottesville, the amount of donations that the SPLC got absolutely went through the roof. So to find out that Alex Jones was right, another quarter in the jar, Mika Punk Rock. Probably the least surprising thing in the world if you think about it. I'm going to explain it with a little country analogy, if you will. One of the best ways to tell the difference between a city guy and a country guy is to ask them what their opinion of deer are. Because city folk think, oh, Bambi, those things are beautiful, I love seeing those, yada yada. Country folk, we hate deer with a passion. They're really lucky they taste so good. You ascendant. The reason we hate them so much is they ruin crops, they just absolutely raid gardens, and they're nocturnal and tend to freeze whenever they first sense danger, such as when they're immediately in the middle of the road while you're driving. It is relatively rare to find somebody in the country who's been driving for any period of time who has not at least almost hit a deer. And I'll tell you right now, I've hit quite a few of the things. I was hoping they... Okay, Semini 45. Good to know. Take a little quick look around. So, the question being, why don't we just absolutely get rid of the deer? Well, they're a little important, you know, just for general environmental balance. And people enjoy hunting them. Partially because they taste delicious, right? Well, there's the host dead. Oh well. That was a very busy area. And we don't hunt them absolutely to extinction because then we wouldn't be able to hunt them anymore. You have a bag limit. You have seasons. You know, you send out, conservation police, basically game wardens, to make sure people aren't poaching, right? Well, apply the same logic to people who make a good, probably, six-figure salary living hunting white supremacists. If there were no white supremacists, what would you do for a living? Probably nothing. There was that lady who, very famously, people are, crying about, she has to start back over at nearly 60 years old because her USAID grants ran out and her NGO is shutting down, and she was making $250,000 every year. And oh no, she's going to have to, learn to code, or she's going to have to put the fries in the bag. Terrible, right? She spent decades pulling down several times more than I make and I make actual physical durable goods that people use. She was pulling down a salary and saying she was helping the problem, but if she ever helped the problem she was working on, she would have lost her job. We have the same problem with the homeless over in California. They throw a couple $1 billion at the homelessness problem, and what do they end up with? More homeless. So people throw more money at them. Why do you think our education system is so terrible? They're literally incentivized to not teach kids properly, because then they point at the poor grades and go, give us more money. When you give them more money, and then the grades just get worse, right? Same thing with the SPLC. They need the KKK to still be around so that they can point their cameras at them and go, oh no, give us more money. And all those various groups were just getting absolutely demolished, right? They've been on the downturn for a very long time, and even like the Obama years couldn't seem to pump any life into them. So seemingly what the SPLC decided to do was to essentially throw on the Infinity Gauntlet and say, fine, I'll do it myself. Keep those groups on life support so that they would have a boogeyman to fight. But it gets even worse than that, because what if there's some sort of disease going around that's effectively wiping all your deer out? Say, something called chronic wasting disease. Well, then you actually start looking into how to keep, the deer population as it is, as healthy and numerous as possible, despite having another weight on their population numbers, right? That's essentially what the SPLC was doing, is they were giving essentially health care, vaccinating the Klan and the literal National Socialists so that they'd at least be healthy enough that they would do something that would give them basically the ability to advertise their services. And the exact service they were selling was essentially to get Charlie Kirk offed. If you think about it, that's really what they were doing. They didn't want to get rid of the Saturday morning cartoon levels of evil racists. They wanted to keep them around so that they could basically take everybody else who was to the right, to the left of them, but right of center, and say, look who these guys are hanging out with. They've had, their hate maps and whatnot, and we're putting even milquetoast conservative groups on there and basically pointing at them and then pointing at the Klan and saying, these guys are just like these guys if you think about it. And it's like, well, are you also going to throw some money at TPUSA? Because I bet they would have eventually, assuming it collapsed sufficiently, because they would need to keep it alive. Okay. Oh, PFS 51. Great, we got an invader. See if we can get an angle on this guy and take him out before he becomes a problem. Oh, there's the invader. For game. See you, bitch. Oh, Lou. Ah, I'm still playing too much Pokopia. Oh my gosh, this guy must have the Taunter's Tongue on because this is way too many guys too quickly. Okay, he's got... Need some blue juice. Well, we're at a disadvantage now because he's going to keep getting invaded. We're down one guy. Oh, that guy's back. Oh my god. If I'd known this was a Taunter's Tongue run, I would have ducked out of here. Not behind us, at least not yet. There he is. And we're not going to be able to summon another guy because there's two invaders. Risky play, but we'll see if this works. So yeah, long and short of it is, the entire Charlottesville thing was probably an op. Are the Reds fighting? Why would you do this? I'll take the free blue juice. Now this guy's going to be able to just summon another guy. So with Charlottesville being what it was, just imagine how many people got one-shot by the whole Charlottesville thing. Like, not even including the lady who died, unfortunately. But half the guys who were there probably shouldn't have been there. It was a huge optics win for the SPLC. They got tons of funds from it. I guarantee you he mostly wants me. Yeah, I know what that is. Oh, great. There's our backup not coming in. Not to mention the fact that Joe Biden specifically stated that it was Charlottesville that inspired him to run for president. And there are still people who are not going to be able to understand that they got psyoped into being needlessly terrified of the horrible ascendant, KKK who are making a resurrection and yada yada yada, when in fact they were literally on death's door. Ooh, I got roll caught there. I was not expecting that sludge bomb to be quite so big. Oh well, it's a good time to run this off anyway, and that guy was probably trying to grief invaders anyway. Well, let's see. I hope he got him. Oh well, I think I'll leave it there. Quick rundown is basically just SPLC faked a lot of stuff. A lot of people not going to be able to understand that half of their worldview is based on faked psyop stuff. And if the SPLC is capable of doing it, who else is? And anytime somebody gets accused of being a Fed, and the Feds come out and say, no, they're not one of ours, who's to say they aren't just being paid off by an NGO that happens to be very, almost literally in bed with the Feds? Right? I mean, that's kind of what NGOs are there to begin with. They're stuff that the government can fund so that they can do things that the government can't do. For example, like, was that NewsGuard or whatever program that basically says that they, monitor bias in news media, and they're teamed with the SPLC to tell them, who the extremist hate groups are, because the Feds can't censor things, but NewsGuard can tell you, like corporations, what can or can't, should or shouldn't be censored, so that they do it anyway. Like, yeah, think about it. Who knows how deep the rabbit hole goes? We'll probably never know. Half this stuff is probably going to get Epstein, filed, buried. Same basic problem, right? Because even when you have what you think is a friendly administration that's going to reveal all this stuff, they still drag their feet for some reason. And from my understanding, the investigation into the SPLC actually started under the Biden administration, but then they just immediately shelved it. And then the Trump administration restarted it. And then Pam Bondi slow-walked it probably for like a year plus. And then within a couple of weeks of Pam Bondi being gone, charges. So, what changed? Who knows? Will we ever know? I mean, maybe in 10 years, but I'll be extra rickety by then. I'll probably have 2 bad knees instead of just half of one. Alright, that's going to do it for me. Have a good one.